What's going on, dudes? It's your boy Andy Matrix, and Sony's monopoly continues. Sony's monopoly continues. I'm here at Forbes.com. It says Sony is in talks to buy Kadokawa.
Hello, this is Yami Yugi from Yu-Gi-Oh! And make sure to subscribe to Andy Matrix's channel. Now on with the show.
And there's a reason. There's a reason why Sony wants to buy Kadokawa. It's not just about power. Well, I mean, yeah, it is about power, but why did Sony decide to buy Kadokawa all of a sudden? We're going to talk about it. Well, I'm going to get there first, but let's go ahead and go over this article here at Forbes.com. It says, in a pretty astonishing piece of news, it seems that Sony is in talks to buy Kadokawa. In case you guys didn't know, Kadokawa is a Japanese company that has, they publish anime, manga, and video games. And also some TV shows and movies. According to Reuters, Sony is thinking of buying Kadokawa, which would have massive ramifications for both games and anime. Now, Sony is originally a Japanese company, so it's only natural that they would want to buy other Japanese companies, right? Only natural. So we think. It says, from a gaming standpoint, the big acquisition would be from Software, of which Kadokawa has a controlling stake of as of 2014. Admittedly, Sony already has a small chunk of From Software along with Tencent. So the Chinese company also has their pockets in this gaming company of Kadokawa. It says, but this new setup would put Sony much more directly in charge. Says, considering Microsoft's recent acquisition of Activision, it makes sense that Sony would go after a company like From Software via Kadokawa. Sony has had a long-standing relationship with From Software going back to 1990s and original PlayStation. So theory is this could be a good matchup, I guess. But the problem is that monopoly is like they own too much. They own too much. And down here, they say like Sony already has Crunchyroll and Aniplex, so buying Kadokawa will bring a huge amount of IP across anime and manga under Sony's roof. Kadokawa also has a sizable chunk of Western anime press, having bought Anime News Network and owning Book Walker, who run GX+. And see, that's another thing. I think that's one of the reasons why they bought it, because of Anime News Network, right? Because Anime News Network is basically the front, right? I guess the front runner of anime news in the West. So anything that's going on with anime, we always get it from Anime News Network, right? So I think that's another reason. It's just also to have control of the press. And since Anime News is still very well trusted by anime fans, they go, hey, not only are we gonna get that game company, but we're also gonna get some power over anime. We can control the anime news, so to speak, right? No conspiracy theory there. No conspiracy theory, guys. So I'm just chatting, okay? We're just chatting. And in case you guys are wondering, this is Kadokawa's website, and if you guys want to see some of the projects that they have worked on, let's see. Let's go over to, where is it? Let's go over to gaming. We go over to gaming. They've done Elden Ring. I guess they produce Elden Ring, and then Armored Core, and then they get the RPG Maker Unite. As far as animation and film, it looks like they worked on some movies here. I've never watched these, actually. They worked on Gamera Rebirth, The Rising of the Shield Heroes, owned by Kadokawa, Oshinoko, owned by Kadokawa. So, they're big business. Big business all over. And I wanted to share this with you guys because you really cannot, a company has to be desperate. A company has to be desperate in order to sell themselves to another corporation. So in Japan, so here at the Wall Street Journal says Japan's economy shrinks again as inflation hits consumers' pocketbooks. Now, this article is from this year, 2024, of May 16, 2024. So this is like 6 months back, right? Yeah, about 5-6 months, I think. So, but still, it is relevant because the Japanese economy has been suffering since the pandemic. It has recovered a little bit, but it's been suffering since the pandemic. And I made a separate video as to how the Japanese economy, the Japanese banking system is affecting prices over here in the West. And that is why some people were blaming, the inflation on Japan. So I have a separate video on that. So you guys, I'm going to link it somewhere around here so that you guys can see. I'll put it in the description maybe, right? So to make the long story short, Japanese economy is suffering because of inflation. And as a result, people are not spending money. And as a result, Japanese companies suffer. So companies like Kadokawa, if they're not getting enough revenue, if they're about to go bankrupt, what's going to happen? What's going to happen is that they're going to have another corporation and try to buy them. And this is exactly why there is an economic crash. The whole purpose of an economic crash is so that other corporations can go and buy out the smaller guys. Right? Because if they're not making money, if they're desperate, then they're going to be like, hey, we're about to go down. Let me just go ahead and sell this company. And then like, Sony basically has a monopoly on gaming, on anime. The more companies they own, the better. Let me give you another example. I'll give you another example. The company Nissan. Yeah, Nissan, the Japanese car company, they're going bankrupt. The Japanese car company is going bankrupt. That's not a joke. And that shows you how bad the Japanese economy is. I mean, they're really suffering over there. Japan hasn't had much innovation in the last 30 years. Ever since the 1990s, they pretty much have been stagnating ever since and just trying to keep their heads above water. And in 2019, I went to Japan for the first time in May of 2019, before the pandemic, before everybody got locked up at home. Thank God that I went before the disaster happened. So here we have a chart of the American dollar versus the Japanese yen. Right, so this is from Forex trading. I've done some Forex trading. And so here it says 1 American dollar equals to 154 yen. Now, I'm sure you've seen this. If you've ever gone to a South Latin American countries, some Asian countries like Thailand, the American dollar stretches much further. So look, if you look at the chart over here, right, I'm going to move the chart over here. So back in Back in November of 2019, if you guys, I'm going to zoom in here. January 2019, the yen was $1. The yen was worth $109 to 1 American dollar. So, right, so it was about equal. It was almost equal. It was like 9 yen more, so a few cents more. But it was almost equal to the American dollar. Now, fast forward to the pandemic, you see here, the yen starts to lose value. At some point, it even made it to 160 up here. In 2024, it made it to 160 yen for $1. Right, and right now, it is at 154 yen for $1. So, it lost 50% of its value. The yen has lost 50% of its value. I want you to think about that. Okay? That's how bad the Japanese economy is. And that's one of the reasons why, Sony just went out and said, hey, which company can we buy that is so desperate that we can, turn into our monopoly, right? That we can own for our own purposes, right? Because Sony pretty much got a monopoly on anime with Crunchyroll. They got a monopoly. Well, they're trying to get a monopoly on gaming. Right, they got the PlayStation, but they're losing fans on the PlayStation too, on the PlayStation as well. So, yeah, and this is what economics do. This is the whole purpose. If you look at every economic downturn, right, every time there's a recession and companies have to close or go bankrupt, file for bankruptcy, from as early as the 1900s all the way till now, there's always a grab. Bigger companies starts to buy out smaller companies. Right, they start to buy out smaller companies, and now we have to look up to the big corporations, and we're not going to have a lot of independent private companies. Those are shrinking, and that's why I actually encourage people to start private companies instead of going public. Just stay private. The Daily Wire, for right now, is a private company, and they have made hundreds of millions of dollars from their business. What's his name? Eric July, you know, Young Rippa. Young Rippa, he's pretty much independent, private company, private publisher, comic book publisher, makes millions of dollars. If you see, I mean, I bought some of his comic books. Have you seen his company? Have you, you know, check out his YouTube channel. I mean, his crowd funds are crazy. His crowdfundings are crazy. He gets like $1 million per crowdfund. You know, it's amazing actually. So yeah, this is, you know, this is Sony just growing their monopoly bigger and bigger and bigger. And this is why I switched to PC game. I'm not saying that I'm safe because of PC gaming, but I just, you know, I'm looking for platforms that give you a little more freedom. I was looking at GOG, right? I don't know if you guys ever heard of GOG. Let me go over here, GOG.com. So GOG.com, I haven't really bought anything from here, but apparently, like if you buy something from, this is digital games, it's basically digital downloads, but basically you buy the game here and you can own the game. Yeah, you can own the digital version, meaning that there's no, they don't have any of those terms of services or you know, those small letters saying that, yeah, you're only paying for the license, but you don't really own the game. No, here you actually own the game. So I've been looking at games over here. And yeah, guys, so that's pretty much all I have to say about Sony. You know, I've actually canceled my Crunchyroll. I canceled my Crunchyroll. I've canceled my... I really only have Netflix now, and I'm just trying to be as independent as possible from, like, you know, these corporations. Sometimes you have no choice but to rely on them, like Amazon. It's just so convenient, but if you can be independent from some of these corporations, then by all means do so. That's why I don't buy a console. I don't want a console anymore. I just want to play my PC. All right, guys, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell for future notifications. It's your boy, The Matrix. Godspeed, baby.